Right, we're at the Artemis BJJ camp in Bristol. I finally met Leoni Munslow after, like, God knows how many times I've tried to meet her in various ways in various seminars. We both got a mutual friend in Paul Seven back in Worcester, who partially introduced us, so we're kind of aware of each other. But all this is going to be, so we've got a few minutes before Leoni teaches her class. So we're just going to talk about how Leoni got to be here, right now. So her journey through martial arts, and then hopefully she's going to show us a part of what she's going to teach. So where did you start then? Where did your jiu-jitsu journey begin?
I started in traditional jiu-jitsu in Worcester when I was 6. So I started training in 1992, which is where we figured out we've had a lot more mutual friends through the jiu-jitsu community, people like Stuart Gwill and Taz and all different sort of people that were around quite a long time ago. Talking about how I went to my first Gracie seminar when I was like 13 maybe. So before I really even knew what Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu was, or although there were many people training in this country really. So I did traditional Jiu-Jitsu from when I was 6 till I was 18, and then I moved away and picked up judo. I always thought that I'd go back to traditional Jiu-Jitsu and thought that judo was just a stepping stone to get my stand-up game better. So then through judo I found BJJ in Swansea, so I started training at Gracie Barra Swansea in 2007, so 12 years ago, makes sense?
Yeah.
So started training down there and then moved over when Pedro Ressa took over in Port Talbot. So did a lot of my training there with Kevin Cox was my first main instructor, and probably the reason that I'm still training now, to be honest. So that's great. Just fell in love with it from early on, really. Then I moved to London in 2009. And when I moved, Pedro was like, if you're going to go and train in London, go and train with Felipe de Souza, because he's the best in London. So go and train with him. So I did. I moved to London and 10 years ago started training at BJJ School, which is now taken over by Nikki Robinson and Anthony Shahal. So that's our school now, which is New School BJJ. So I've been training there since I was a blue belt. So.
Oh wow, okay. So who else have you got in your club then? Who hopefully some people might know of. So you mentioned like Owen.
Yeah, so Owen O'Flanagan, Nikki Robinson, Tom Pollard, Luke Ash is coming up through, especially with no-gi competitions. We've got some really good guys coming through. It's really nice to see some people. We were talking about Owen earlier, and I remember Owen being like a really quiet teenager as like a yellow belt. So when he was about 12, something like that. Yeah, so and now obviously he's one of like the top black belts competing in the UK, competing every weekend. So that's pretty cool to see. So
speaking of competitions, one of the main reasons I keep hearing Leoni's name is that you do quite a lot. As you mentioned, you did Worlds earlier on in the year. So you mentioned there's going to be some sort of, you've just started a firefighter BJJ organisation.
Yes.
Are you on about the games coming back to the fire service hopefully next year? So
so we've got I'm part of a group of 4 that have reinvigorated our London Fire Brigade Jiu-Jitsu training sessions. So we're starting back next week, which will be really cool, and we're going to get ready for the World Firefighter and Police Games in Rotterdam next year. So we'll hopefully be taking a team out there. There's a couple of guys fighting in the British Army Inter-Services tournament at the end of the month, but I think we should be taking a much bigger team to Rotterdam, so that would be pretty cool to be part of.
Cool. One thing I did want to talk about, just because I run obviously my own gym, you're one of the original female grapplers in the UK. Like I say, you've been doing it even longer than I have, and I feel old in this now. Back in those days, I remember going to a lot of competitions where if there were any women who wanted to compete, it was almost like just put in the men's division. So the simple fact that you've managed to hang around, like even through those dark days, and you've seen jiu-jitsu change and grow the way it has, What advice could you give to women in clubs to kind of keep their motivation high? What kept you going even for those days where you just felt you were being squished?
I think that's a key point. I think that the women that do jiu-jitsu either get good and get resilient, or they stop training.
Yeah.
Because we are generally the smallest people in the gym. We generally don't have people our own size to train with. We don't have as many people to compete against, and it's quite hard sometimes to gauge where you're at when you're constantly judging yourself against guys that are considerably bigger and stronger than you. So that's quite demotivating at times, I think. There's like the core group of girls that were around when I started training were people like Christine McDonough, Sarah Mariner, Camilla Hansen, Yaz Wilson. They were sort of the women that I grew up competing with. So it's really good to see people like Christine come back competing, because there's a lot of people now that actually don't know really who she is, but she was on an absolute tear up until she went away to university and is now back tearing up again. So there's sort of some of the girls that have been around a long time are still doing very well. Like Yaz Wilson is one of the most technical grapplers that we have, massively underrated. So it's cool to see like new people coming through, and like Fion's obviously fantastic, and then you've got some of the women that came through when I came through, which is obviously in quite different circumstances. So sorry, I haven't answered your question.
No, that's fine.
But I think what's important for women is that if you're not happy in your school, you don't have to stay in the school that you're at. There's loads of places to train now. You've got a lot of choice. Don't let people tell you that loyalty is everything and you have to stay at the team, and when actually they're not making you feel welcome, they're not giving you good training, they're not supporting you as an athlete or just as a training partner. You're a very valuable training partner to some people. So if people are making you feel like you're not, maybe you're not in the right club. And I don't think people say that enough to women. If you're not happy where you are, move clubs, because it's probably not the sport, it's probably where you're training.
So what advice then could you give to clubs to make them like more welcoming? As in, what kind of habits would you stamp out to make training easier?
I think just teaching people to control their weight and their size is a big thing. So clubs that have teenagers or children training with the adults are usually quite good at it. So if you can roll with kids, you can roll with anyone. But rolling with kids takes technique, because you can't put your weight and power in against them, because they're much smaller and much lighter than you. But if you're fighting with a woman that's 50 kilos, she's also much smaller and much lighter than you. So you need to master your own body control. And if you can't, don't call out the small girls in the round because you think it's going to be an easy fight. Like that's no fun for anyone. Also support women when they might not want to train with a 100-kilo guy in class. So be a bit more careful with, if you need to pick partners for people in your gym, do it so that people aren't getting left out. If you're not one way, if you let people pick their own partners, that's cool. But try and manage the fact that you're not putting the smallest people with the biggest, or actually that the women are getting left till the end and therefore they're getting trapped with the biggest guy in the gym because they don't have anyone else to roll with. But just kind of don't be sexist douchebags, you know, just be respectful to people. Like, you don't have to be more welcoming to women, just be welcoming to people. Don't ban sexist jokes and homophobic jokes and racist jokes around your gym. Like, be cool, look after people. Be a good training partner, don't hurt people. If someone's considerably smaller or, you know, it's getting ready for competition, encourage women to go and train with other women, because we fight differently. And when you only train with men and then you come into tournaments and you fight women that don't fight like you're used to, you're at a disadvantage. Yes. So we've been very lucky. When there were hardly any women training in the UK, we did a lot of training sessions together because we were all we had. So we would get together to train. And I think that was really important for us and also for our morale. But if you have women doing open mats at other gyms, or you want to host one at yours, but just encourage women to train together, really. But I think the main thing is just don't let your ego get in the way and just try and crush you because the girl is going to tap you out with technique. So.
Yeah, exactly. That's one thing actually I say to, especially when couples join my gym, is that usually obviously the woman's smaller, is that I make a very big point is that as frustrated as she will find it, she will end up better than her partner, her husband or boyfriend or whatever, simply because he will rely on strength first. He'll get his ego kick in, and he'll just like want to maul someone, and she won't have that option. So no matter how they look at it, give them 2 years, she will be better technically. And it's quite funny, as in when you sit in both dances, she will be better than you. You can't help that. Just because she has to be.
Ego's jiu-jitsu is a leveler for ego though. I think if you can't handle your ego, you generally aren't going to make it to black belt, because
completely not. And you just watched my class, so that's completely against how I just was. Right. I'm just going to pause it there because I know this camera's going to fuck up.
Okay.
I know this is going to look super weird because obviously the angles now changed. Leoni's just about to do a class, so I want to like show this dead quickly. You want to show a guillotine. So,
yes.
Right.
So I like doing guillotine in the gi, which a lot of people don't. I think people don't expect it in a gi in the same way, and I think I catch it. And my guillotines comes from Dan Strauss, who taught me how to do guillotine, and I've loved it since he showed me. So if you ever get a chance to go and train with Dan, go and train with Dan, and he'll teach you better than I will. But so when you're gripping up in a match and you're coming in, I find that I like to stand. So I'll be working for a takedown, but I find that if people realise that I'm difficult to take down, they will quite often either pull guard or they'll shoot in for a leg. So if they shoot in for a leg, that's when they've dropped their height. So there's no point me jumping for anything on someone as tall as this. I need to wait for him to drop his weight, drop his height down for me. But as soon as he comes in to take my leg, I need to make sure that my shoulder is behind his neck. I need to be all the way over the back of his neck so that I can't see any skin on the back of his neck. My right hand is going to come all the way under, and I want the blade of my forearm underneath his throat. So when I'm in here, that's when I catch hold of the back of my hand. So my hand comes down, catches on the back of my hand, the meaty bit of my hand rather than my fingers. And then from here, that's what I bring up towards me. And then what I'll try and do is get my elbow as high as I can. So this kind of works on flexibility, but what it does is as soon as I get a grip here, he's likely to raise his right arm to try and stop me getting the guillotine on. And if he can put it over the top of my shoulder, then I'm not going to be able to get enough pressure to squeeze it on. But if I can catch my arm higher than his, as he brings his arm up, it puts it on tighter. So I want to try and get my arm here, ideally all the way over his back. So when I'm in here, sorry Chris, when I'm in here, I'll square my body back up, I'll keep my weight forward, my hips heavy, and then I'll bring my hips forward, as if I'm doing like a steamer lock against my belly. Bring my hips forward and bring my weight in. Now I'll lean myself back, but when I'm in here, this way, his posture's so bent over that he can't stand up. So when I'm in this position here, he can try and carry on driving me back for a takedown, but I'm going to sprawl and I'm going to keep my weight up here. But here, there's no way he can get his hips low enough to stand back up to pull his head out. So that he can drop himself as low as he likes, because all I'm going to do is stay on top of that. But I want to bring my hips forward and pull myself up here.
That was disgusting. Okay, cool. Are you going to teach that now?
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you, Leoni.
Thank you.
Thank you. We've got a couple more episodes with Lilo and Mike. So yeah, thank you.
Cool.
Thank you for watching that video, wherever the hell it was about. Please like it, share it, subscribe to the channel. If there's a bell icon, it should be on this side. Please click on that if you want to get notifications for any new videos I make. If there are other videos around my head someplace, please click on those for more techniques. And in the description is a link to my Patreon if you want to support the channel in any way. So thank you for your time.